Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease. I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute for medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. You guys, I am so excited about this podcast episode because we're about to dive deep into talking all about food, all about inflammation and disease processes, and what it really means to be nutrient dense and everything in between. So I am ready for this. Grab a pencil and grab a sheet of paper or notebook because we're going to deep dive into all the things. And I cannot wait for you to share with me at Joyful Ebony what your experience has been going through all of this. And it's going to be so good. So I'm ready to go ahead and jump right into the episode. So here we go. All right. So food. Everyone loves it. Everyone is always talking about, ooh, I'm a foodie this, I'm a foodie that. Wait, I have to go to this restaurant. I have to try out this thing. I have to do that thing in terms of food. But there are also other people that are like, I eat it because I'm supposed to. I don't like to cook. I don't really like to clean up after. Meh. So somewhere in the middle of that, I kind of existed for a while. But as I started cleaning up my diet, as I started to understand what foods were giving me a hard time, what foods were contributing to my IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, which, by the way, is pretty much gone and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't remember the last time I had a flare-up even, but it was understanding what the heck am I supposed to be doing as it relates to food. It's time to just break all of this down and really get into what's the difference between whole foods and what's the difference between processed food. But wait, to an extent, isn't all foods processed? Yeah. Yep, it is. But the key is trying to get to consuming those foods that are minimally processed versus the highly processed. So let's talk about this, shall we? So first things first, let's start with explaining what are whole foods. And I'm not talking about the grocery store where a lot of people joke and say, oh, you're going into whole paycheck today. No, not talking about that place. Although I absolutely positively love Whole Foods. And I have actually learned how to shop there without breaking the bank. And I can share some of those things that I've learned, but primarily coupons, going to the store when it's not that many people in it, typically late at night or early in the morning. That's when the stores are typically restocked. And I spoke about that in a last podcast episode. Also, I try very hard to look towards the back whenever I am shopping for certain animal proteins or just understanding, are there manufacturer coupons? Are there coupons offered by the store? So those are some of the things that I tend to look for. And I'll get into that more in detail at a later time. But right now, Whole Foods. Sorry, I had to go on a whole tangent there because to me, eating healthy doesn't always have to be expensive. So back to Whole Foods. Now, when you think about Whole Foods, I want you to think about this, and that is the food is as unprocessed or minimally processed. So, for example, if I go to a farmer's market, my farmer basically, let's use carrots for an example. They got the carrots, they dug them up, they cleaned them, and they brought them to the market. Now, in that instance, when the farmer had to go and clean up the carrots, technically that's a form of processing. So I want you to keep that in mind, but also just be open to the fact that I am specifically talking about minimally processed whole foods. So let's continue. The other thing is whole foods aren't refined. And when you actually consume them, it still looks the way it did when it came out of the earth. So if you tell me that you're giving me carrots and when you put it in front of me and it's not a sliced carrot, it's purple and looks gummy, I'm going to question you. That's just, it is what it is. So you want to look for something that's as close to its initial state as possible. Then the other indicators are going to be, all right, does it spoil quickly? Usually things will spoil quickly because they have not been very processed. They have not had additives or preservatives added. So they're not really going to last that long. And that is typically something that a lot of people complain about as it relates to more whole, unprocessed foods because you want to eat them and 3 days later it's spoiled. I know, I understand. But the benefit to that is now I understand, okay, if I break this down and let's say I wash my fruit and vegetables with vinegar, I let them sit in the fridge, I dry them off and all that good stuff. So at that point, I can get them to last a little bit longer. And usually what I do is I go to the farmer's market during the summertime, buy a bunch of berries or other type of fruit. I blanch it by putting it in boiled water and then I freeze it. And that way I can have it for a lot of the year. I will not say year round because the way my appetite is set up, I can't play myself that way. So that's what I mean. And another thing to think about is, would your grandmother or great grandfather have been able to identify what that food is? If not, it's been a little processed, just a little bit. Now, I know that we've made a lot of discoveries about different types of plants and we've engineered a lot of things to look prettier or to taste better. And I'm not talking about those things, and that will typically cause a whole slew of conversations. So I'm going to stay away from the whole genetically modified foods for now, because I just want us to focus on whole foods and minimally processed foods and what that means. So when you're also looking at whole foods, if that item has been processed, how long is the ingredient list? Because if you have like 15 words, high fructose corn syrup is the first thing, you're already off on a bad start. So I want to encourage you, start looking at your nutrition labels. That is part of the battle. And the other problem that I have with a lot of food companies is that on the front of the package or the front of the container, they say, oh, this product is great. It's loaded with fiber and it has all these things in it and it's so nutritious. But when you look at the label, it has tons of saturated fat. It's loaded with sugar and half the ingredients you can't pronounce. So I want you to become more informed and more educated about what you're looking at. And again, don't worry, we're going to start going over what a lot of that means and how it can impact you. And lastly, can you find that ingredient on the outside of the store? And I talked about this in my meal planning guide, which you can grab at joyfulebony.com/meal plan. And the biggest thing that I like to do is stay on the outside of the store because I try very hard to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I try very hard to get my fiber in that way. And it's just a lot easier for me personally to go to the outside of the store, grab the things that I need, and leave the grocery store. I'm not as tempted. But I will say, don't be afraid of the inside of the grocery store for things like canned beans and your bulk items or rice. The problem that a lot of people talk about as it relates to the inside of the store is that is where a lot of highly processed foods are found. A lot of junk food can be found there. And as long as you know what your triggers are, what foods you should be avoiding, and what's not necessarily the best for you, it makes it a lot easier for you to think, all right, this is why I'm going to go to the inside of the store. There are also a lot of frozen fruits and vegetables and foods in the center of the store as well. And I personally tend to get a lot of frozen fruits and vegetables. I put them in soup. I put them in smoothies and different types of meals that I prepare. So I'm not opposed to the inside of the store from that perspective. Now, processed foods. Let's talk about that. So we've kind of sort of started the process of bringing up a processed food is something that has gone through a lot to get to the shelf or get to you or your plate. So when you think about processed foods, how long can it sit on the shelf? Is it one of those things that expires in 1 to 2 years? Is it something that has an ingredient list of 15 things, most of which you can't pronounce any of them? Does it have things like trans fat or hydrogenated oil or high fructose corn syrup in it? Does it have those types of things? And like I mentioned before, is this something that your grandmother or great grandfather knows what it is? And I'm pretty sure that a lot of them have not seen half of the really creative dishes that we have in on the market today. So think about that. Nutrients, not necessarily from a marketing perspective and not necessarily from protein, carbs, or fat. I want you to think about minerals. I want you to think about glucose and glycogen and other building blocks like amino acids and all those things, because we often hear so much about, all right, I can't eat carbs, but vegetables are a source of carbs, or fruit are a source of carbs. Your brain functions on carbohydrates. It needs them. So I don't want us to continue the process of demonizing food in that way. I want us to have a conversation about it and really and truly break it down. Food really and truly does unlock the key to our success. And that is something that I want you to be this year. So we just have to get into it. We have to have those hard conversations. We have to dispel some of those myths. And I'm really excited to be able to do that with you. And friends, so excited about this. We're going to be coming up on 100 episodes of The Thyroid Warrior. I can't believe it. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I am so thankful for you. And I want to celebrate you. So you guys are my peeps. You're my jam. I love you. And I want to have a live event. So here's what I need from you. I want to know, where are you listening to the podcast from? And right now I'm trying to figure out if I should have something on the East Coast or the West Coast. And if you follow me at Joyful Ebony on social media platforms, you know I put out a couple of polls to see if having it, let's say in California or the DMV area or even New York, would be something that you guys are interested in. But I need your help. I need you to tell me and let me know where I should have the event. And this event is really all about you. It's my way of giving back and saying thank you. And I'm trying to figure out if you want it to be a day event or if you want to have a VIP night associated with it. And in that case, I can find an Airbnb or a place for us all to get together and hang out. But I want to go in detail with some of the things that I'm learning. I want to hear the questions, the issues, the concerns that you're having in an intimate space because you deserve to be heard. And I'm so incredibly excited about this opportunity to serve you in this way. But as I said before, I need your help. So, in order to vote, in order to get me that information so that I can start planning this so that we can have an amazing time together, I need you to tell me where should I have it? What should we do? Are there concerns that you really want to have addressed? So you can do that by going to joyfulebony.com/live event. joyfulebony.com/live event. And you can fill out the form there and let me know what your thoughts are. And I'm so excited. I cannot wait to hear from you guys. And as an added bonus, for the month of January, I am offering 20% off of all of my products and services on Trainerize, and you can find that by going to joyfulebony.com/Trainerize. That's TRAINERIZE, which also includes my one-on-one services. So go ahead, check those things out. Thank you in advance for filling out this survey, which is the most important part, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Okay, thyroid warriors, get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, be great, reflect on your triumphs, and as always, be well. Take care.